All right, thanks for, we have in-person guests here tonight, or this morning, and also we have some people online watching our coffee chat with the school district. I'd like to first start by thanking our school staff. We've been at over 70 presentations here in the last couple months, and then thanking the city for carving out space and for their gatherings, or our chamber for their gatherings. We've been to all the civic organizations, all the youth associations. We've been to some churches that wanted us to be involved, some Bible studies that wanted us to be involved and share their message. And we really just tried to carve out our message in every platform that we could think of. This is that last opportunity for the community to come and get their questions answered. Right now, we have a craft fair going on, which is sponsored by our Senior Citizen Center and students. So it's a senior and student-led craft fair. So we thought that'd be a good opportunity to get people down here for this operating levy. One thing that we're really proud of is we're proud of our school system right now and the things that we're offering. And we'll talk about that here in a second. But when you really think about school systems, that they almost go synonymously. A thriving school district is a thriving community. Thriving community has a thriving school district. It's pretty much guaranteed. It's a science, and that's why we're really proud of our school system. We believe that the investment in schools when kids are between the ages of 4 and 18, the statistics will show, if you talk to county workers in the criminal justice system, they'll say that support inevitably usually keeps folks engaged and part of proper and appropriate development during those growing years, instead of all of a sudden have to rehabilitating on the backside from maybe not having an engaging community or school system. We are an engaging community, and we're proud of that. Talking a little bit about who we are. A lot of people don't know this, but in the bottom left corner of that screen up there right now, you'll see that we have FFA and we have agriculture. And that's something that our school district has not had in over 35 years. And I guess when you just look up there and ask the question, who are we? We are a school district now that is very much replicating the needs of the community. So our courses are not just content courses that maybe you're used to, but in the last 4 years, we've significantly developed our manufacturing, our construction, our welding, our certified nursing program, education program, and just making sure we have hands-on experiences for kids so that they learn authentically and they learn how it applies to life. We didn't do that because of selfish reasons. We did that to match what the community and businesses were asking. We have a lot of apprenticeships and internships now, which really make us connected to our business community and world. Our activities are always very robust, and we think that really helps the community, because robust activities after the school day helps business owners have kids. It develops a workforce that helps them have workers, but it also keeps people active after school instead of going to try find a community member's lawn to skateboard on, or a Target or a Caribou with 40 middle school students just hanging out. Activities are robust here, not by just selfish reasons for the kids, but also designed to keep a community all going productive in a productive direction. And then one of the things that we've just started here in the last 3 years would be our connections down to the middle school level, so that kids have hands-on experiences to what they might be interested in or might be good at. And so at our middle school, we are the only one in the state right now that has a STEM lab, and it's certified with over 20 modules that kids get to put a cast on, so they get to do they get to do philology, ophthalmology, so really diving into that medical field in three or four of the modules. There's drones and flying and engineering, criminology, They take apart an engine and then put it back together. They hang a picture to make sure that it's level. They put a doorknob on, and just like really hands-on things that hopefully will be application level to life. And we're really proud of that because that gets kids then hopefully engaged, keeps them engaged. We've grown our online program because you want to diversify and make sure that you have spaces for all types of learners. Education is very, very competitive right now, and we'll talk about that in a few of the slides here. And along with that competition, we also partner with our homeschool families and make sure that they know that there's spaces for them to get involved in 1 or 2 classes, and make sure that we can create as many partnerships as possible. So at Monticello Schools, we're proud of what we do. In the middle corner, middle center of that picture, you'll also see kids in the forest. We have a nature-based program for grades pre-K, K, and grades 4 and 5, and 1 class in each. All right, and then I think I'm going to turn it over to our Director of Business Services, Tina Burkholder. And one thing I forgot to do, but hopefully my partner in the background in the technology, but I am Eric Olson, the superintendent. And before I pass it off, I just want to let you know that I've been here 21 years, 13 as a principal, and 8 as a superintendent.
Hello, Tina Burkholder, Director of Business Services, and I've been with the school district for over 13 years. So like Mr. Olson was saying, we have a couple different funds that we get to support our operations. We have our state funding, where the majority of state aid is, I think, close to 75–80% that comes in for us, and 15% is property tax levy. And so the state aid and property tax levy, and some of that property tax levy is the form of state funding, where some components have an aid and a levy component to that. And then it also includes operating levies that are approved by voters. And then based on those 2 funding streams, it's based on enrollment. So we have just under 4,000 kids. We were hovering around 4,000 since 2003, and we've just kind of gradually increasing, decreasing, but now we're starting to see more of a decline. So when it comes to state funding or just funding in general of how schools are funded, it's state aid, it's local levies, and a lot of that's driven by enrollment. So here is a chart of our enrollment since 2003. So again, people probably have thought we're growing like St. Michael Albertville, but we have not. We're just slowly hanging around that $4,000 mark, and that's really challenging because we have audits year over year, and we don't have, they're great audits. We don't have a spending problem. It's a revenue problem. So when our enrollment's kind of holding at that mark, we're not gaining any additional revenue. And we have inflation pressures just like anybody else in the home and business when we're trying to operate our school district.
When Tina and I presented this slide to staff, they couldn't believe it, right? Because, you have so many different restaurants coming into town, and so absolutely the town is growing, but the single-family homes have not, and that, we believe, has contributed to the slow growth of our district. It's kind of a growth model the city has adopted, and we're not saying anything bad against that slow growth. We've benefited from that slow growth in other areas, but if you go look up building permits per year, there's very few building permits going on. Now this year, we're starting to see a huge increase. So we think the growth is coming, because if you go west of Little Mountain, you'll see some growth happening. But if you look at from 2003 to about 2003 to 2020, you'll see very few building permits, single digits, sometimes 0, 3, 9, and that's contributed to our slow growth. Plus, like I said already, all those options that people have has also contributed to a slow growth. I guess I'll take this one just because it's one of my, new passions in life. When you see that Monticello, where we rank with our revenue, And a lot of people, I sat up at Hasty Diner not too long ago and talked to farmers, and this was one thing they found really interesting is that you mean schools get different amounts per pupil? And I'm like, yes, we do. So rural and urban get different, and we get where we are right now with our revenue coming in. We are 283rd out of 331, so that we can't control that. That's our revenue coming in, and so when you look at that, that's a problem that we are going to continue to lobby for down at the state level, just to make sure that there's some more equitable finances and student revenue that comes to us. And I think maybe if you think back, I think they were trying to do the right thing when they developed the formula, because they were probably thinking it's going to cost more in urban and it's or going to cost more in very, very rural because of transportation and things like that. But I would venture to guess that our Block 52 apartments and some apartments down in Maple Grove are going to be very, very similar nowadays. And so I think the costs are really, the cost gap is decreasing, and things are more the same across the state than I think they ever have been. And I think that's just because of some of the urban and suburban sprawl. But I just don't think, when you see that, I think it's eye-opening for people to know that we are funded revenue-wise differently, and because of that, it's put us in a challenging spot to be able to build everything we did, and then still operate and be competitive and have programs. I'll put our schools up. We had a lot of growth at our high school as far as program-wise, and I'm really, really proud of being a career-minded high school. So we have 4-year and 2-year articulation agreements with a lot of colleges. So kids are walking out of our high school with more college credits than they ever have for those tracked students, but they're also, even while we've been underfunded from the state, they've also been able to gain immediate skills to enter the workforce, and we're really proud of that. Tina, what is an operating levy?
Operating levy is what we ask the voters to approve additional funding to help our programs. So operating levies are for learning. It helps bridge the gap between what we get from the state to what it takes to operate our school programs. There are other types of questions that we can ask the voters, like capital bond is for one, but building bonds are for buildings. So we did that in 2015. We had 2 different types of questions. We had a capital bond question for building improvements, and we also had an operating levy for learning all the programs and utilities and people that need to fund all the programs that we have. So with our levy, we're hoping to sustain what we have through our teachers and support staff, with safety and transportation. Right now, we worked really hard with the change in start times to keep our routes under an hour. But if we don't, get the funding we need, those could be longer transportation routes. We want to continue with the innovative programs that Mr. Olson was talking about, whether it's nature-based, the career pathways at the high school, the STEM programs at all the buildings, especially the middle school. We want to keep all that. Technology and training. Technology isn't just the one-to-one devices. There's so much technology that integrates with everything that we do, whether it's maintaining our building systems, our heating controls, lighting, our public announcement systems. Technology is integrated with everything in our auditoriums as well. And athletics, our fees are pretty reasonable, what we offer families to participate in athletics and activities. But we would have to look at raising those fees if this didn't pass. Right now, our general fund supports our activities through the amount of $1 million. So the activity fees and the gate fees that come in doesn't cover all of the costs that it takes to have all the nice activities that we have. So we would have to look at raising fees to sustain what we have.
I just think it's a good reminder that we're in the people business, and we're a service, so we can't you know, we can decrease costs, and we're going to start to get into what we have decreased, but 80% of our budget is for people and their benefits and salary. That's just because we don't make anything. So our revenue goes to the people so that we have programs to keep kids active, engaged, and busy.
So how much will it cost? Our school board, I think we started in March, talking about do we ask a question? Do we auto-renew? 2 years ago, the state legislators approved where school boards could auto-renew an existing levy for the same amount, same length of time. So the board was kind of wrestling with, should they just auto-renew what we have, or should we do something different and ask the voters? So they chose not to auto-renew the existing levy. They wanted to put it out to our voters. Because if we just auto-renewed, it would maybe sustain us for 1 to maybe 2 years, and we'd have to go back out to the voters anyway for more. So they chose to revoke the existing levy and renew it with a different amount. So this chart on here shows the tax impact for different property values. I think the average home for Monticello is around $360,000, $370,000. So one column shows the existing levy coming off, what the new levy tax impact coming on, what's the annual impact, and what's the monthly impact. So for that average home, it's around $303, or about $25 a month would be the new tax impact, and that will hopefully sustain us for 5 years. They were trying to figure out, they weren't trying to ask for the world, we weren't trying to get to the #1 spot in revenue coming in, because if this levy passes, it only bumps us up a couple slots, maybe above the Big Lake slot. So they were trying to see, because all of us have had inflation pressures, at the grocery store, construction, everything. We've all felt it. So what is a reasonable amount that we could ask the voters to help us sustain our operation for the kids for around 5 years? And so that's where that amount and decision kind of came from.
The levy is a 10-year voter-approved levy, but our Director of Business Services is trying to be very cautious. It's just like when you look at your own home budget, it's hard to predict out past 5 years, and so that's why we're using 5, even though it is a 10-year operating levy. So we just want to make sure when we say 5, it's us being conservative and cautious so that we don't set the future up in a challenging spot for the future school administrators.
So with the district levy, when I have our truth and taxation hearing, I describe our levy as a pie. It's a 30-page document of calculations. A lot of it's driven by enrollment, where that determines our district levy, or the pie. And I've been asked, more homes have been built, you should be getting more levy. That doesn't increase the pie. It only cuts up the pie into more slices. So depending on your building, your home value, your business value, that determines how big your piece of the pie is. So our Excel power plant, they're a big piece of the pie because they have a big value. So if more homes are being built, again, that just cuts up more of that pie. The only way we could supersize that pie is going out to the voters and asking for an additional operating levy. And this is the question that will be on the ballot. It's very legal driven and it looks scary, but it's saying we're revoking the $775 per pupil. So that's the revenue that it's generating per pupil to $1,550 per pupil. So that's, again, that's not the tax impact. That is the revenue per pupil that we're generating. You have to go back a couple slides to see what your tax impact would be. We have a chart on our website as well where you could put in your actual value and it would help you calculate what your tax impact would be.
I believe everybody online and in person here, we would not choose this wording if we didn't have to, but this is the legal that is written for us. It does look scary. The numbers on there make it look like your taxes are going up that amount, but just that reminder that If you have a house valued at 350,000, it's not going up, to the level that this says. That's the per pupil amount, and it's not the tax impact amount. This, obviously, Election Day it's a big day, and that's why, like I started out the presentation saying, we've been at over 70 events. We've really tried to get out there to inform people. We're really proud of our schools. We're proud of what we've built, and we want to make sure that people are informed so they go cast an informed vote. The transparency that the school board and administration operates on. We have all of our audits on the website, and they have been there since 2013, so you can dig into whatever you want. We're a district that has, we have good contracts, but we don't have like exorbitant contracts when you compare like professions. So, teachers start, if you look at teachers or admin, we all start in a place of, that's, around average, and we keep kind of moving up. Some pieces of our contracts are a little bit above average, some are average. And so I think it's how most businesses would run. Our non-certified, certified in administration, like I said, we have average contracts. I think we have good insurance, but it's not exorbitant. So we can prove all of that. In fact, if you go on our audit, oftentimes tell us that we're under admin and that we should be adding, and that comes up in several years' audits. So we are running a lean ship. We've cut $2 million this past year. We're cutting another $2 million this year, and we don't have any more fat. The things that we are cutting ends up being people, because if we remember back to that fact, we are 80%, 80% of our general fund balance goes to staff wages and benefits. Like just an ending, I know that we always like to carve out time for people to be able to ask questions. Your voice matters. We haven't been scared of tough questions. We've really enjoyed the last 2 months engaging with our community. And so we want to continue that on our last coffee chat, and just be able to engage with everybody in here, ask questions that are pertinent to you and your scenario. And before we pass the mic around or people are sitting at the table can use their own mic in front of them, we just want you to know we thank you for the support that you do provide the district and community. We have a lot of businesses and families that donate time, donate dollars to the programs that they are proud of. And so if you follow our school board meetings, you'll see every meeting we start with a donation time, and there isn't a meeting that I can remember that we haven't accepted something coming from the community. So we have robust engagement from our students, families, community members, businesses, and we're not going to shy away from that. We're going to keep leaning into conversations. So with that said, we'll lean into conversations now.
Well, I have something to say.
You bet, Ken.
Why did you use 10 years? I mean, there should be an option where 2 years, 5 years, 10 years on the ballot so people can approve something. There's no incentive for someone to look at a 10-year increase with no change other than inflation. It seems to me that if you really wanted to have people vote yes on this, give them an option that you get something, because this is all or nothing.
Sure.
And if you don't pass this, do you keep the existing levy? Or is it zero?
Yeah, so I think we'll tag team this. I'll start with the easy question, and then I'll let Tina take maybe a little bit more complex question. But the bottom line is, if this does not pass, that $775 per pupil, that's revoked, and it goes to zero, and that's where it would be at. So that part is, we would not be able to get that former levy back.
Just one correction. We do have 1 year left of the, so it's, right now we're in year 9, it would be year 10, and then it's done. So we would have no levy in place.
Okay, and the other question was about why 10 years? It's like nothing or 10 years. Why can't there be something in between to see how it impacts the schools?
Yep, we could look at different options, but the board chose to go for 10 years to keep it in place. Otherwise, we'd be going, if we did 2 years or 3 years, we would just keep going back to the voters.
And there's no problem with that. I'm a voter, I'm a taxpayer. Ask me again in 2, 3 years or 5 years.
I think that was, you're really getting on a piece that they struggled with, because the state actually would have allowed us to auto-renew this year, and we didn't think that was the right decision for sure, because then it goes way back and really doesn't give the taxpayer an opportunity. So that was what they struggled with, is coming up with that right amount of years. And traditionally, we've had 10-year ones here in Monticello, and that 10-year one looked to kind of spread it out to maybe that palatable level that they thought maybe we'd have a shot to be able to tell our story and hopefully get voter approval. So but I understand and hear you, and I think that they struggled. It was several meetings of digging into, try to find that that spot that people could both afford potentially and be okay with. When I spoke at the council, city council, there was a council member that had the same thought that you did. Just like, I can't believe you guys are going all or nothing. That's so risky. And the board got it, but they thought going to the voter every couple years was more of a challenge, because especially knowing that we've failed our last two. And so I think trying to right size it for a little bit longer period of time was their thought pattern.
I wanted to ask about the inflation thing. I understand there's a lot of school districts that do that. Oh, thank you. I understand that there's a lot of school districts that do that. I'm just curious, because we're kind of in a tumultuous time right now. As far as inflation's concerned, core inflation is supposed to be at 3%. I don't think anybody actually believes that. And rates are being cut. That's inflationary. You're saying like maybe 5 years go and ask about like property taxes again. I guess I'm just curious about like what things will look like tax wise, because I do support in general like the increase. We here like a year ago, we want to start a family. I have quality education for our kids.
Thank you.
So I do support it, but I'm worried about what could happen to property taxes if things get out of control.
So the state determines the inflation factor on the levies, and historically, there's a source from the state that has what the inflation has been on operating levies that had that factor, and on average, it's been about 2.5%. There's only been 2 years where I believe it was around the 5%, but other than that, the inflation that was set on the questions have only been about 2.5%. And again, it depends on your property value and what your property value is doing. If it's increasing and others are increasing, hopefully that is just continuing being spread evenly across all property taxes or all property values.
And I think the good piece of what we are seeing right now is that in the next 5 years, it looks like there could be anywhere from 200 to, I'll go on the light side, but let's just say 200 to 300 homes building in the next 5 years west of Monticello. And so that's going to help that the pie gets sliced differently. So hopefully, by looking at projecting out, like Tina said, like there's a couple contributing factors to that the taxpayers won't see a significant increase over this 10-year levy. So like we've been not growing like both Tina and I have been saying for about 20 years. But on the horizon, if we continue to keep good schools by these building permits starting to shake loose, if we keep good schools, we should be sought after, and with those building permits, we also hope that the the revenue from those increased students, because that's where you really get your bang for your buck. Every student is right now, hate talking about students as dollars, but for this question, you have to, is that every student generates around $10,000. So that's a big deal in comparison to, the local levy. And so increasing those hopefully will then not have us going back to the voters for that whole 10 years. That could be the case with the operating, but we could get to a spot where all of a sudden we're growing so much that we might be looking at the town needing to build some schools. And if we have a case study right to the south of us with St. Michael, like they were booming with their building permits, and they built a lot of schools. And at some point, I remember when I first started 8 years ago, I thought that was coming 8 years ago. And Tina just looked at me, and I had to kind of calm me down. Says, it's not coming yet. It's not coming yet. And I wasn't. You have to look at the building permits to really see. But by rights right now, if we keep our schools the way we are trending right now, we should see an increase in enrollment over the next 5 years.
So basically, the hope is that more enrollment will keep from having to go back to increasing property taxes and stuff like that.
Unless we have to build, and we can't, all of a sudden, when you have to build, you almost always have to go for a building bond.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Just because when you're doing $50 million, they wouldn't generate that much, with 200 kids, but they would have generated enough for the operating costs, but definitely not the building costs in the future. And we do know that our roofs and things like that, we also have a tool on our website that shows the asset and any deficiencies of roofs or sidewalks. We have a huge tool to make sure that the community can also see that we manage our assets, and we're watching that, and we're using our long-term facility maintenance funds and our capital funds to make those improvements and try to keep up the best we can. But at some point, there would be a potential need to build in the community. We're good right now on space, and we can make it for a couple of years, but then I don't know what that looks like after that.
So I want to still be able to afford it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Where my concern comes from, so.
Yeah, I think another wild card is kind of what's happening at the federal level. It kind of makes us all uneasy that we don't know what's happening there. Or will funds stay at the federal level, or will they be delegated to the state? How is this going to be managed moving forward?
Awesome questions. We even got kids in our audience today. That just warms my heart, because that's what life's all about right there. Well, we'll just give an awkward silence here for a few more seconds, in case anybody has any last-minute questions. As for the people at home that are watching, this is live streamed, but I think these public coffee chats haven't been the best attended, but we know they're important because you want to make sure that you offer public forums. But our other, like I said, 70-some events were very targeted and could have saw anywhere from 30 to 50, depending if you're at like VFW or Legion or Lions Club, or you're at a youth association meeting. But today we thank our 10 or so people that are here in person, and however many people are watching online. And then if people didn't get a chance to watch this, we're going to post this one just like we did the last one. So appreciate Gavin Nelson for being here. We have a lot of famous families in here with some graduates and community members, and Joel Lundeen, Miles of Smiles, those of you that can see him, former principal for how many years, Joel?
I was in the district for 29.
29 years, yeah. his tagline was always miles of smiles, and everybody's in the audience is nodding, so, awesome.
Eric, just a quick comment. Joel Lundeen, former principal, teacher, coach. I've been very proud of this district for a long time, and I know how tough it is to go to voters and ask for money. It's the only tax you get to vote on. You know, you don't get to vote on your property taxes or anything else. So I guess looking back, somebody, when my daughters were going through Monticello, we had bond issues and referendums, et cetera, voted for that, which benefited my kids. And I guess in my stage, I'm looking at, I need to pay that forward. And so for me, it's a no-brainer, but then I'm an education guy. And I know that education is important. And one of the things that I really appreciate with what Eric and the staff has done is open that up to not just college bound. When I was through, it was always everybody's got to go to college. Well, there's more out there than just college. And I'm very impressed with what you've done with, you know, minimal resources or having to readapt your resources to fit what your community needs. And I commend you guys on that. I mean, Garrett back there was a former student of mine, and he was my saving grace because I'm a technologically idiot, and he came over and basically was my right-hand tech guy because I didn't have a tech person, to be honest with you. And so it's great to see that Garrett's come through and he's now employed and et cetera, et cetera. There's an example of Garrett, you were way ahead of the curve as far as you didn't have a, what do they call those, apprenticeship. But really, you were an apprentice on your own. You created that own thing, and I commend you for that and commend the district for seeing that and hiring him. But I guess it comes down to, Eric, you don't want to keep coming back to the public. The public doesn't want to sit there and do that. And I understand, you know, go 2 years, 5 years, but it's really tough to bring this forward to the public. And that's probably why they go 10 years, to be honest with you. Because if you had to go back every 2 years, people get tired of it. Don't keep coming back for money. Figure it out and tell me what I owe. My deal is that congratulations on a job well done. We need to move forward. Where's your mindset? Do you want to pay it forward? You've got kids coming up, hopefully in the district, and you want to see that build as well. I'm going to pay it forward. I'm not sure what the rest of the public wants to do, but that's my comment. Thanks for all you do.
All right. Gav, you want to close it down?